Welcome to Faith Speaks with Dick Patten, and this is Catholic Radio, WICX 102.7 FM, and we're coming here from Immaculate Heart of Mary Church, the Activity Center on Concord Heights, and it's a pleasure today to have my guest is Mike Fitzgerald, who is the president of the Parish or Pastoral Council. I'm not sure which one you go with.
Pastoral Council. That's an important distinction.
Yeah, and so he has come in today to talk about what's going on with the council, and a lot of people don't really know much about some churches, the parish council or pastoral council is very active. Mm-hmm. Other ones, it's up to the discretion of the minister or the priest if it's going to be active or just to sit there and listen, and I'm going to tell you what to do. But you've been president for several years now?
Well, I've been involved with the council for probably over 20 years now.
Really?
And I kind of refer to myself more as a facilitator than a chairman or a president, but actually, since Father Paul Gauss was here, I was involved before that, but I became chair at that time, and nobody else has stepped forward, or I haven't stepped backwards. So.
Well, there you go. But I used to think when I first met you, I thought you were at St. John's, because that's where we were.
No, this has been my parish since the early 90s here. I actually was unchurched for many, many years, and then came to a major epiphany in the early 90s and realized I needed to get some things straight with God, and came over and visited with Father Tom at the time, and it was way well back, and started attending Mass again, and then several years later got involved in teaching RCIA and some evangelization activities, and then had an interest in the Pastoral Council. A lot of people were coming to me with questions and stuff, and I thought, well, if people were going to ask me things, I ought to be in the know. So.
Well, it's funny because, like I said, I was on the Pastoral Council at St. John's. Mm-hmm. Down there, they had we were married at St. John's. I was not Catholic, but within a year afterwards, Deb had no idea that I was doing it. I went and met with Father Lauer down there, Father Dick, and I really enjoyed him a lot. We were married by Monsignor Murray. Mm-hmm. But then he left, was transferred, and so then we had Father Lauer come in, and something about him I just liked, and so I made arrangements to go meet with him, and he got permission from the diocese to teach me because I already had gone by Easter and all that. So I think the reason we were traveling to Nebraska, and I don't like flying at all, and even this day I don't like it. I hate it.
No.
And every time we go flying, no matter where we're going, I always make an appointment to come see the priest and do a confession with him, because I don't like planes. Mm-hmm. But anyhow, so then I went to the teachings there with Father Lauer, and they had a special day in July, I think it was, and I was baptized and confirmed, and what was another step in there, and that was it. And I became a full Catholic, and I have always been interested, because I'll tell you, I don't know about you, Michael, but what got me really interested, my family was not very religious, I have to admit it. We used to go, my cousins used to go to Sunday school at First Baptist for years, and then my father bought some land in York, Maine, and built a camp on a small pond down there. So every weekend we were gone from April to October.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm not going to send you to Sunday school just for Christmas and all that stuff. That's not right. Well, anyway, but when John Paul II became Pope in 96,
So
79.
78, yeah.
78, 79. I remember him then.
Mm-hmm.
He was in Boston, and they were on TV. And just something clicked. I said, "Oh yeah, I want to know more about this." And so I used to follow him. I follow that a lot because for some reason he was younger, and he really appealed to young people, I think.
Yeah, well, he was a very active guy too. He was
Yeah.
a skier and an avid,
Sure.
sportsman and outdoorsman, and I think I think he had quite an appeal to the common man. And I, even though I was unchurched at that time, I think I had a kinship with you. I certainly felt a lot of attraction to the man.
What? Now, you just said a word. You said you were unchurched?
I was not attending church.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's like with
probably
me.
from the time that I was.
Yeah.
I was raised. I had an interesting upbringing. My father was a very devout Roman Catholic. My mother was a Southern Baptist.
Oh yeah.
And so we had an interesting dynamic in the household. And but we did go to mass on Sundays with my father. And we had actually both of my family attended Catholic schools, and my mother had quite a relationship with the priest. As a matter of fact, one of our closest friends, one of my parents' closest friends, was the priest who founded IHM, Father Boner.
Oh yes, I remember. Yes,
he was a very close friend. He was assigned. I grew up in Laconia, and he was assigned up there at the time. And I remember him coming over and having dinner at the house all the time, and so on. So I had a Catholic influence from an early age.
Yeah.
But of course, as I went off to college, and there's a lot of people that kind of rebelled and got away from church. And I remember one point I was actually during college driving a truck for Weeks Dairy, and I used to tell people that that was where I found God, because I started at 4 a.m. and it was awful quiet driving that truck from Concord up to Meredith every day, and at 4 a.m. and God and I would have some good conversations, but he didn't lead me to church, but he introduced me to some people and put me in some places, so that later in life, when I went through some difficult times and so on, I turned back to the church in my 40s, and as I say, I had a pretty serious epiphany, came over here, and I kind of expected to get beaten up and asked a bunch of where have you been for 20 years and that sort of thing, and the priest at the time was just wonderful. He invited me in. We had dinner together. He actually invited me to attend RCIA, and which I think he knew. RCIA is actually the way that people enter the church, the people that have not been raised Catholic, and I think he may have known or understood that I was baptized and confirmed, but I think he knew that I needed some postdoctoral work, and
sure.
And so he invited me to that, and I used to come over and meet with him once a week, and as you mentioned, kind of get the teachings, and it's just gone from there. I was invited to make a Cursillo several years later, and that really enhanced my faith life, and so that's kind of brought me to where I am today.
It's funny you mention that, because I've thought about that many times.
Oh, I would strongly encourage it.
And because I'll tell you, the reason why was last October, the state, the Grange I belong to, had its convention up in Shelburne. And there was a Cursillo weekend going on.
Oh,
there.
yes, up at the Town and Country.
Because I saw John Wentworth.
Yep.
And I thought, what are you doing up here?
Yeah.
And then he asked me the same thing, and then come find out that's what they were having.
Right.
And I've been thinking about that, but I haven't acted on it yet. But I just so after I got married, I went and met with Father Lau, and he gave me all these pamphlets. So I come home, and I showed them to my wife, and she was mad. She says, "What have you been doing? What are you doing now? Where'd you get that stuff?" And she didn't know what it was, but she thought it was somebody in our complex.
It can be very threatening.
There was somebody in our complex who was of another faith, and she thought I was being whatever.
Influenced.
And then when she read what it was, oh my gosh, she was thrilled
Yeah.
that I was doing, because she didn't ask me, it's up to you, and so I said, no, I wanted to do it. And I talked to my folks and told them what I was doing, and they were fine, because again, they really didn't have a faith either. But
Yep.
and then after I joined, I became Catholic. My sister and my father and mother both
Amen.
joined the faith, and of course, my mother had a hard time going because her arthritis. She just couldn't bend or bend down, kneel down, and stuff. But it was just a good thing here, and
Yeah.
and I myself, because I love to do research, and I like to search things out. I've always loved the Advent season, loved the Christmas story, and I have said that when I pass on, that in my funeral I want that read during the when the readings of the gospel, because I just
Of course,
love.
with all your active with the Christmas parade and so on.
But I just always have loved the Advent season.
Yeah.
Lent is a little bit different, but I just loved Advent. But anyway, and then of course in the 90s we switched over to Immaculate Heart. But I was doing driver licensing, and I met a lot of priests coming in for their licenses and stuff. And there was one gentleman down in Epping who was retired, but he wanted me to become a deacon. And I said, you know something? That really does appeal to me. I'd like to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
My wife says, no. I didn't marry you to become a priest. And she was furious. But I really felt...
It's a lot of work, too.
I know, but I felt, Michael, we didn't have kids.
Yeah.
And I really felt a call.
Yeah.
I really mean, and I don't know what it was, but I really did feel it.
Yeah.
And I was really upset. And even to this day, I really am envious when I see some of my friends who have become deacons or whatever, because I just felt like that was really something I wanted to do.
Yeah, yeah. It's a powerful ministry for the church, too.
It is.
And it's a blessing for those who are able to do it. But, we're all called in different ways.
Yeah.
This is a ministry here that you're doing. And
well, I was thrilled when they had this, and I talked with Father Ray, and I said, I really would like to do this. Now, I said, I know it's a different format than I do for around town, but I just really, it gives me a chance to sit and talk with somebody about our faith.
Sure.
Because I learn things. I listen and learn things from people, because I always have questions, and and one of my hardest things to deal with is death. Yeah. And when my dad died a couple of years ago, I really struggled with it. Yeah. And I still am. And I was doing the Adoration Chapel, but I had to give it up a month ago because I got some medical news that I had to cut back. I've got some surgeries coming this year.
Oh, well.
But anyway, about you. Now, your position as president or chairman of the pastoral council.
Yep.
Do you have to meet with Father Ray and talk over with some things that are going on that you think would be better, or question some things?
The pastoral council, as you noted earlier, is a reflection oftentimes of the priest of the pastor at the time. And one thing that a lot of people don't know is that the pastoral councils are always, and I use the term pastoral council as opposed to parish council. There's a distinction, as I said. Yeah. But the pastoral council is an advisory body to the priest.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't understand that under canon law, the priest is ultimately responsible for the spiritual life and well-being of the parish. And he ultimately is responsible for making all major decisions in the parish. People tend to, I think of a pastoral council sort of more like, our New Hampshire executive council, where there are certain powers imbued in them and so on. But we really are simply an advisory board or a sounding board for the pastor to bring ideas to get information. And our job, on a parish council, they're more responsible for, building structure and painting and seeing that the parish campus is well taken care of and the finances are in certain shape and so on. our job on the pastoral council is to be responsible for the pastoral care of the parish.
Sure.
To be, to ensure the soul, and that we're being true to Catholic teaching, and that and so I consider it sort of like a perhaps in other denominations they will have what they'll call a council of elders or whatever, and I'm probably dating myself now.
Yeah,
Hopefully
no,
I'm not that elder, but still, I think that's our purpose is people who have a relationship with God, who have some wisdom and an ability to provide good, sound counsel and advice to the pastor on matters of spiritual care for the parish. As I say, different pastors, it's taken different forms. For instance, under I'll tell you a story. Under Father Paul Gauss, I had become chair just shortly before he arrived here. And when he arrived, I went to him and said, well, when would you like to have a meeting of the council? And he basically said, yeah, I want to, let's plan on it. And so nothing happened. Time passed, and a few weeks later I ran into him here on campus, and I said, Father, are you still, do you want to do something with the council? And yes, yeah, very much. And another couple of weeks passed, and I saw him again. And finally he said to me, yes, I'm waiting for you to do something. When are you going to get something going? And, it was kind of different because we had always relied on the pastor. And I think that's a reflection sort of our Catholic faith is, we have this, from the 50s, pray, pay, and obey mentality where we wait for the pastor to do everything and tell us everything and make all the decisions and so on. And he was basically saying, well, you have some responsibility too. And that was a teaching moment for me.
Yeah.
And so, and coincidentally, he asked about the membership. And I said, well, we have, there's a few people, holdovers from the last few years, but we haven't been too active. And he said, well, let's pray about it. And he said, you go home and you pray about it, and I'll go home and I'll pray about it. And we'll decide, we'll come back and see who, what names come to us. And quite interestingly, we came up with a list of 12 names, and both of us had 10 similar names. And so Father Paul wanted the council to be formed by his invitation. And quite frankly, diocesan guidelines do not encourage elections for pastoral council. They encourage a discernment process. And so, moving forward, under other priests, that same set of members has been active. Interestingly enough, Father Ray has had more of a democratic and open approach to the pastoral council, and not having a distinction between members and non-members and so on. He basically likes to have open town meetings, and so we meet every couple of months, and he allows and encourages anyone from the parish to come who has an interest, who has a concern, who wants to know about the spiritual life of the parish. He's strongly encouraged them to come and to participate. So our meetings are more of an open dialogue now than this closed body of discernment and so on. He will occasionally, and we'll talk about things like the Family Promise program that's running here at the parish, and helping the homeless, and evangelization planning here. Things that planning for missions and education. We often have members of the staff here who are responsible for religious ed or whatever to come and provide some input to us. We hear from the Right to Life committee. So our job is rather nebulous, but again, it's to provide input and advice to Father when he needs it and when he's trying to discern a direction for the parish.
Well, I know I appreciate the help you've given me, because I've asked you several times on different matters, because one of them, again, was the thing about couldn't they offer something other than wine, because I should say the blood, but it's just that for those who are alcoholics, who are not are trying to stay on the wagon, or those who are on medication like myself, I can't drink anything alcoholic with all my medications.
Right.
So I said, gee, it's too bad that I even couldn't offer a non-alcoholic type thing, but he said, and I know you went and checked on it, and of course I guess it has to come from Rome or whatever, but it's some people it's just too bad, because I would like to take part in it, but
the guidelines for liturgy are set in the Roman Missal, and again, those are the kind of things that I rely certainly, and I would look to Father Ray and Ed and the parish staff to answer those questions. And sometimes we're able to make accommodations, and sometimes we're not. And I think sometimes those things change a little bit. I know, our new Pope is breaking a lot of new ground.
He is really I think he's a nice guy.
He's a wonderful, wonderful person, and I think he's far less bound up in rules and structures and so on, and more just how would Jesus respond and so on. So who knows? Some of those guidelines might be loosened in some ways, but again, as a lay person, I would turn to Father Ray and to the diocesan offices for answers on questions like that.
Well, I really love Father Ray. I do. I enjoy him because he and I go back, and we go at each other all the time, because, of course, he's a diehard Syracuse fan, and I'm a Michigan fan. And he was at my house one night for dinner, and they were playing in the NCAA tournament.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, Michigan was playing Syracuse, and, of course, Michigan was beating them. And he was all down the dumps, and I said, look, if Michigan does one thing, and they're noted for this, Michigan will choke somewhere during this game. And sure enough, they did. And he was all excited now, but then all of a sudden they got their game back and they beat them. But
well, I have to take you both on, because my mother was a Carolina grad. And, and so I've been a Tar Heel. As a matter of fact, the license plate on my motorcycle is Tar Heel. And,
there you go.
I've been a Tar Heel fan for forever. She grew up in Carolina, so that's where I spent my summers. And so I've always had a fondness in my heart for Carolina. So, well, the three of us will have to get together for the NCAA
I know
tournament.
We'll have to. Yes, that'd be fun.
Have a fine time.
But it's sometimes the priest can be so hard to talk to. Other ones are so easy, and of course, I have no problem with him. He knows it, but the church seems to be changing, and what happened downtown. I hope they've talked about us over here being sent to with Pittsfield, Northwood, and Nottingham, and I would hate to see us close this one and go over toward Chichester for Epsom for a new church to be built or something.
Well, I think that thought process has kind of gone by the board at this point. I think that they originally had some thoughts of that as a cluster, but it became clear through the process that IHM was a pretty dynamic parish, and that we had very strong membership. And Dick, I think and I think many people that I've run into over the years, I'll talk to people who've come to IHM, new visitors, and they'll say, well, I tried 4 or 5 parishes in the area, and this was the most warming and welcoming parish, and I feel at home here. And I think that we really strive to be what our slogan, the heart of the heights, is. I think that we have our problems just like anywhere else, and we have all different kinds of people and so on. But I think by and large, people come here and they find this to be a warm and welcoming parish, and I think that we're pretty well set for the time being. There's been a lot of clustering, and Manchester had 16 parishes, and I think they're down to 4 or 5 now.
Really?
Yeah. But that was the Catholic Church back then. I grew up in Laconia, and I attended the Irish church. A quarter of a mile down the street was the French church, Sacred Heart. I went to St. Joseph's. They're now one parish, but when I was a kid, if you went to the Irish church, you didn't set foot in the French church. And so I think that, this is for the good as well,
Sure.
and bringing people together and in this clustering process. But it's hard when you close a parish, and parish that people have been in for, all of their lives. I just recently, this past Saturday, I had the good fortune to attend a funeral of a gentleman from Laconia, where I grew up, who was born, baptized, married, and his funeral was in the same church. And there's not many of us that can say that the way people move around today, and with parishes closing and so on.
Yeah.
Pretty unique experience. But I'll tell you, when the priest mentioned that during the funeral, it really struck me that, a lot of people put down roots, and it's hard. This kind of change is not people. It's difficult. That's one of the reasons, one of the things that, when we were considering that, one of the things I said was to make sure that the pastoral councils all got together first, because then, they can sort of lead the way for the parish.
By all means.
But fortunately, we were able to hold our identity, and as I say, we have a beautiful, loving, and warm parish, and I think we serve the Lord very well, and I'm hopeful that we'll continue this way for a long time to come.
Well, I know we're very fortunate with the music and everything that goes with it, and like I said, I tend to like Saturday at 4:30 because I know a lot of the Heights people that are there. We used to go 11 o'clock. Deb likes the 4 o'clock on Sunday. I don't, because I love traditional music. But she likes the more modern, and that's fine.
There's something for everybody.
But I
know how you feel. We move. I tend to go to the same mass and sit in the same pew.
Yes, I do too. And I miss doing the rosary on Saturday. I had to give it up because I fell off the altar one time. I missed a step. My mobility is not good, so we decided maybe for now I better just not do it. But I still come every Saturday when I'm here at 3:30 to be ready to do the rosary and meditate, and that, to me, that half hour is important. And I love it. I can sit there and talk. And
having the Adoration Chapel again, another piece. People don't realize that just simply by praying how much they can contribute to the life of the parish, and I think that those are very, very important.
When I had to make a decision for my father's health, I came over here to the chapel, even though I couldn't. I was supposed to do it that night from 4 to 5, and I had to sit and pray because I had to make an awful decision. And even to this day, I still question. And I hope I never have to make that again.
I've been in that situation, and it's gut-wrenching.
It is. So. Well, we are coming to a close of our Faith Speaks program. And Michael, I want to thank you for coming on and appreciate all the work that you do as pastoral president or chairman of the board there for the council. And you're very easy to talk to, and that makes it good. So.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me, and thank you for all that you do here on the radio station. Congratulations to Hope FM. I think this is a great blessing for our community. So
I know, I am too. I just really am excited about it. So with that in mind, thank you to my director, Ian Marks, over there, and we'll get you off to your meeting, Michael. And
thank you.
Yes. So
appreciate the
on
opportunity to chat.
Behalf of Catholic Radio, Hope, WICX 102.7 FM. I'm your host, Dick Patten, for Faith Speaks, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon. God bless everyone out there, and please don't forget Jesus in your daily prayers.
Amen.
So.